Alrighty, back on the 504. We're plugging up holes today. Put the pistons on the rods. Right now I got the rings on. A little bit of information here, just good information. Most of the time rings have a little piston rings. Oil ring usually goes on any direction, the oil control ring, but then the compression rings, yeah, I don't know if you can see that in the video. They got a little dot looking right there. And usually that dot always goes up, but it'll tell you in the instructions with the rings which direction they need to go. Put them rings on. Just make sure you never line the slots up in the rings. Just don't ever line those up because it leaks compression past then. So when you put them in the block, you just have to make sure those are all just kind of randomly spaced throughout the piston. These, I always put a little grease here before I put the piston pins in. A lot of times I have the machine shop put these bushings in, and then I send a pin up there with the rods and the bushings. Make sure, and then they hone them out to get the right fit. These pins, they aren't an interference fit, but they're not really in, there's not really any clearance either. They're about say that's 0.8, say that's 800 thousandths of an inch or 0.8 of an inch thick there. I don't know what it is. They're going to machine that hole to probably about 8.8 is the diameter, 0.8 of an inch or whatever. I'm just using that as an example. Or there might be a half a thousandths clearance. It's very tight. Sometimes they slip right in. Sometimes you got to work with them a little bit. And then they have other ones where the pin is usually tight. I can't remember if it's tight in the piston or it's tight in the rod. I rebuilt a little 4-cylinder Chevrolet engine one time, and it was that way. It was either, I can't remember if it was the pin, you had to press them into the rod, or you had to press them into the piston. Can't remember on that, but put the snap ring in each side as it holds that pin in. Come on, there, no, I done it. These rods have a can't remember, I think I said in the other video they couldn't find the old pistons or the rods out of this tractor. I don't know what happened to them. They probably walked off when they were still at the high school, or this thing got taken apart. So I had to order a set of rods out of a salvage yard in Missouri. They only charged me 20 bucks a rod, so that wasn't too bad. But since I didn't take the engine apart, and the shop manual is very less than descriptive on the they don't even tell anything about the rods. They tell a little bit about the pistons and nothing about the rods in the dang shop manual, which is kind of stupid. So I posted on YT Mag to see which way, because rods usually do have a direction in which they go in the engine, where they sit like that or sit like that. It just depends. The pistons are usually marked like they got front, and the piston needs to face that way when this is the front of the engine, so I'm going to set them in there like that. And then the rods, the guy replied on YT Mag and had he said usually the rod numbers, which is rod number 3, face the camshaft, and the camshaft is about right there, so I'm going to have the numbers facing up and the piston facing forward. Just got to pay attention to that kind of stuff. I don't know, these are pretty symmetrical rods. I don't think it probably make a difference either way, but it's just good to get them all facing the same direction, the right direction. And then you put this in like that, and I gotta work with it a second. Shove it in until it hits then it'll push most of the grease out the other side. Shove it in until it hits the snap ring. These rods are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, but it didn't really matter where I put them because they came out of it, and I'm going to put them in as 1, 2, 3, 4, but it don't. Come on, stupid little thing. Because they came out of a whole different tractor and everything, and we didn't have a lot of machine work done to it, and so these aren't even really a snap ring. They're a rounded little piece of, almost like you put in drive shafts on U-joints. There we go. But yeah, I'm going to put them in still as 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll go ahead and plastic gauge them because I do not know, the history on these rods either or anything, so just be good to do that. And of course, they don't give torque spec for the nuts here, or the bolts there, so I'll have to do the same thing like I did on the main caps, just make an educated guess on what it's supposed to be. Alright, got a couple of holes plugged here. I'm messing with, I guess I'm messing with number 3, so. Do that. Just put some oil in the bore there, gives the ring something to get started on. A little grease on the bearing. A little bit of lubrication for the first start. Numbers at the top. Piston says facing forward. Number 3 hole here. The piston gets cocked too, and then once it gets going, it's alright. There we go. Come on, get in there. First 2 went alright. Of course, the one I'm videoing would fight me. Oh wait, I got that thing on backwards there. It needs to go like that. Now I can squeeze that thing better. That thing is really slick. I bought that from Mac Tools. I can't even remember how much it was, but it comes in a assortment of bands you can change out. I think there's 6 bands. I think 4.5 or 5-inch bore is the biggest it goes to, and then the smallest is 2 7/8 bore. But it's real handy. Okay, actually, I think what it is, it's 4.5 bore is the biggest, but I think I've used it on a 5-inch bore, and it still works as long as you're paying attention. You don't got a ring gap, right in the middle there. So, get that thing. Always use these hammers because you'll never mar anything with that plastic surface. You can hit whatever and it'll never cause a scratch or ding it or anything. There we go. I got that up there. Now let me get just a little grease because grease sticks a little better than oil. A little grease on there. There, me off the thing of plastic gauge. These rods, I've been checking stuff out pretty well since I don't know much about this engine, and especially since these rods didn't even come out of this engine. I'll show you here in a minute. I've been checking the side play also, how much clearance you got there on the side of the rod also. It's supposed to have 5 to 14 thousandths, and I got like 6 thousandths on that rod and 5 on this one. So it's kind of tight, but it's still within spec, and normally, you know, you wouldn't do that if you didn't have the rod, you know, you didn't have the crank turned, and you didn't have the, and you're putting the same rods that came out of the engine, putting them back in. But since the rod journals weren't turned, so that's a non-issue. But they were just polished. But since we got different rods, we're going ahead and checking the side load on it. There, I got the number 3 up. Put just a little oil on the threads there. Turn those in gently like. You know, rod caps, they were saying I didn't like a 1/2 inch bolt going to 120 or whatever they were calling for at the top end. The specs up with them at 105, but their spec in the book for what, or they're just a torque chart in the book for a grade 8 3/8 bolt fine thread was 43 to 47 foot-pounds, and my torque chart that I use for about everything was 45 foot-pounds. So that's what, it's right in the middle of what they recommended, so that's what I'm going to, is 45. Right at the top. Now let's see. Got the plastic gauge in tight. See if this thing will break them loose. It has the other two. And it did. Nope, left the bearing sitting there. Had 1.5 thousandths there and 2 thousandths on that one, or like 1 3/4 thousandths, and the spec is 1 to 4 thousandths, so that was good. What caused that to get scuffed there? I can't see this in the video. It didn't show up in the other one very well. Yep, 1.5 thousandths. So it's about perfect. New engine, like it to be a little tight. And then it's still within spec. Wipe that one off. That looks alright. Doing a little service work on the truck. grease on that for startup. Gotta make sure all that crap's wiped off. Don't want any piece of dirt in there or anything. Numbers at the top. There we go. Now, a little bit of side play there. Yeah, I probably even get 6 in that one. That's a 5/1000 feeler gauge. Yeah, it don't go in. It's not quite as tight as that one is, and so we'll be alright there. And that's how you put pistons in.